Good morning. Good morning. You are listening to ChristianLivingRadio.com. I'm your host, Kenyatta Goins. I'm here with Brian and Joanne Pelcher. They head up a new ministry called Unashamed by Grace. And I'm going to let them take it over and give you some history and some facts on Unashamed by Grace. Good morning. How are you doing?
We're doing great. Thanks for having us here this morning. We really appreciate it. So, yes, our ministry, Unashamed by Grace, has been around now for a little over a year. And it started or actually 2 years, I guess. It started at Thrive, which is a men's retreat. A bunch of churches come together and they meet up in Williams, Arizona for a few days. And when Brian was there a couple of years ago, he got word that he needed to start this ministry. And so I'll kind of let him tell you a little bit about it.
Yeah, 2 years ago we went to a Thrive up on a mountain in Williams. And what it is Thrive is an awesome men's retreat put on by a few churches around the valley here. And it's about 500 men that are up there. And the first year I actually didn't even want to go to Thrive. I was resistant to it. I didn't even want to go. But ended up going and actually had an experience. I actually felt God's presence in my life on that first weekend. And it was amazing that first weekend. It was just like, I had never felt that before. And it was during a Saturday night worship service. And but then the next year, we had hardships in our life. It was hard to get up there again.
Yes.
We made it up there again. And that year is the next year is when Unashamed by Grace was actually birthed. That's when, on a Saturday night again, something about Saturday nights. And I know you're going up there this time also.
My first year, I'm taking my son too.
So be prepared.
That's
Saturday
awesome.
night could have something
In store for you.
life-changing.
All right.
So, but what it was is on that Saturday night, it's always during worship service for me anyways. It could be different for other people and everything. But during worship service that night, there was a song playing, and you know how you see the words on the screen? They're just average size words. Well, that night the word shame was one of the words on the screen, but what I saw visually was the word was about as big as the entire screen.
Wow.
The word shame. And I didn't quite get it, but it wasn't like an audible voice from God, but it was more of an impregnation basically of what he wanted to have happen and to have this ministry birth inside of me. So during that night, all these things kept coming to me. I've actually got a bad ankle to where everybody knows I can't walk and everything. That night, it was almost as if he had entered my body in a way. It's hard to explain to people that don't believe, wouldn't get it, but it's Christian Living Radio, so a lot of people are. So
Holy
you'll
Spirit's
probably
amazing.
get it.
That's all
So,
I know.
but I actually left that building, running around that place. I went over to my son's cabin and I pulled him out, and he thought I was on drugs or something because I was running. I haven't ran in 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 30 years. Be 46, so 30 years. And it was just amazing. But then as that experience happened, it was almost to say, it's like, Brian, something massive happened in your life. I want you to grab hold of this and understand what happened. So with all that and this, it was as if pain had to just leave your body. It was just, it was
Because
all
God's
gone.
perfect spirit basically was in you at that moment with his word.
So it was just gone and everything. So, but then after that, it was that next day, a gentleman speaker, Nathan Bentley, who was actually, you're going to see him speak this week.
Okay.
Up there. Nathan Bentley was up there, and he gave his testimony up there, and he's like, who am I to serve? Who am I to speak in front of you? Who am I here to even preach to you all? His message was on his own pornography in his life, his own sexual addictions.
Wow.
And that was confirmation because of what happened that night. Because with mine, it was the Lord was saying, I want you to use your past to help others. And my past was all with sexual addiction and all pornography and all different types of things.
So that's where Ashamed by Grace Unashamed. That's where that came from your past, and how God cleansed you and wants you to help others.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, I guess, as far as the introduction, we kind of gave a little teaser, but yes, that's exactly what our ministry is about, is sexual addiction and everything that goes along with that, as far as, so that's something that is prevalent right now in the church and in the world. Obviously, everyone knows in the world, but it's something that's not talked about a lot at church, because it's one of those subjects where it's kind of brushed under the rug. But what's happening is, just like if you don't clean your house, eventually all that dirt is going to start to show from underneath the rug.
Exactly.
And that's what's happening right now. It's just becoming so big and such a massive epidemic that it's starting to, come out. And especially not just even with adults, but what parents are finding is that their children are actually viewing it. Some are becoming addicted to that. And so what's happening is we're not intentionally raising a generation of sexually addicted children, but that is what's happening. A lot of it from, what they see on their phones and at school, the movies that they watch, the music they listen to. So it's coming at them all different ways. And so that's another thing that we'll be talking about at another time with you here on the radio, is because we know that's super important, for parents to know and start to understand with their children too. But for today, we would definitely want to talk about our ministry as it relates to men and sexual addiction.
Yeah, it is big, because the key word you used was swept under the rug. We're, as Christians or anyone of faith, we're afraid to say that we're not perfect. We have problems, or we struggle with things.
Right.
And the best way is not talk about it.
Right.
And that's the worst thing in the world to do.
It is, yeah, because no one will get better if it's not talked about.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with the church nowadays. The church actually realizes it, but they still won't talk about it.
And they don't know what to do with it. They don't know what to do about it.
A lot of it too is they're afraid of the word. As soon as you start saying sexual addiction, pornography, all the things that go with that in a church service, it starts to eat at people. It doesn't feel right, because one of the reasons is about 76% of the men are actually sexually addicted. 55% of the pastors around the world are addicted.
Yeah.
So how can 55% of the pastors speak about it when they're currently going through it? Because it's more of a hypocritical thing, to where they feel as though they can't address it because they're dealing with it themselves.
Wow.
So that's why it's just not spoken. And it's because the faith, hope, love, peace, joy is a much better feeling.
Yes.
It feels better. It packs the house. But like we talked about with another pastors, was, what is church? What should church be? Church should be a hospital.
Yes.
Where you bring the wounded,
The
bring
sick.
the broken. Instead, with this addiction, you're bringing ambulances to the church empty, and you're filling them, and you're driving the ambulance away because they can't talk about it at the church. So that's what Unashamed by Grace is here to do, is to change culture, change society, and start getting this out in the public in a positive format, a positive way, to where people will start to understand and grow and be educated. Because just like you wouldn't allow your children to go play in the street, you wouldn't allow your children nowadays to go play in a playground by themselves with seedy people around or strangers around.
Correct.
Nowadays, you just don't do that. So they know that. They know people are out there and they can abduct your children. But what they don't know is, when you turn your children loose on the internet, you're turning them loose to not just a little playground in your neighborhood, you're turning them loose to the entire world.
Yeah.
The entire world is at your fingertips.
And you really enlightened me when you gave me a booklet and a CD about the computer and our kids. And
Yeah, that was with Covenant Eyes.
yes.
Covenant Eyes is an amazing institution there, where they've they realize and they recognize how pornography and sexual addictions are being spread. And it's through the internet. And it's through when you give little Johnny or little Janie your phone to keep them entertained while mommy and daddy are doing business or just wanting to have peace. It's basically a babysitter. You give it to your children, but the thing is, all they have to do is go to one site, click one button, and they're in. And all it takes one look. What do they say about drownings? They say it only takes 1 second.
1 second.
1 second, and you can have your child is gone.
Yeah.
All it takes with pornography is one look. It's that one look. We're all sexual beings. So when they see that, it's like, what's that?
That's why we have to guard our eyes,
Yes.
guard our
And
ears.
then it's the seed is planted. It's in there. And then they don't always just turn away. 90% of them won't turn away. They'll keep looking. But even though that child may be 5 years old,
Yes.
he still knows right and wrong because he still looks at it. But then if mommy and daddy come by, he hides the phone. I
Yeah.
can't. Oh, no. What are you doing, son? Nothing. Let me see the phone. And then it's there.
Yeah.
They still know.
They do.
So,
And not every child, obviously just like with anything, not every child or, person can become addicted, but just what happens is, like he was saying, just that one glance, it becomes like a negative in your, like a picture negative in your mind, to where those can sometimes stay with a person for the rest of their life. And you can't really erase it sometimes. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's where, he was saying it, you don't even want them to have that first look because you just don't know if it's, it may not become an addiction, but that image now is burned into their mind.
Yeah.
And we definitely don't want that for our children.
yeah, I can still see it from the very first time I ever saw it. It was a Penthouse magazine. I was in California. I was in a field. There was another boy. We had our bikes. And I can still see the centerfold. It's clear as day. I'm looking at it right now. Sorry, honey.
That shows you what that one look
Yeah.
at that age did.
It's
Yeah.
right there. You've got a data bank. You've got a library up there of all the things you've seen and all the things you've done in your past.
Yeah.
You can see them.
And so what happens now is when men come to us and they're ready to, you have to be ready first to be able to start the recovery process. But when the men come to us and they're ready for recovery, they've been dealing with this for so long that they want their mind to be clear and they want their mind to be free. And that's totally possible. But sometimes as they're struggling through this, sometimes for years, we've known people that have been dealing with this for 30 or 40 years. And they realize, oh my gosh, there is hope and I can renew my mind and I can get rid of all of this. And what a relief. But what, we look at it also to why we also have a focus to help parents is because we don't want people to struggle for 30 years, for 40 years. We want them to be able to be proactive so that never happens. You know? We don't want a society of people who are struggling their whole life for something that can be overcome.
Yes. There's nothing too hard for God.
Right.
And I know you people very well, and I know you're spiritual and God-led, and that renewing of the mind sticks also, because that's biblical, and that's something I've been teaching on, is the renewing of our minds, because we can get into a slump because of these things.
Oh, definitely. It'll affect every area of your life.
Yeah.
Parenting, your work, your relationship with your spouse.
You lose everything.
Yeah.
You can lose everything.
Yeah.
Actually, some people even lose their life because it is a huge part of suicide.
Right.
There was actually, just going to this real quick here, there was actually a